And welcome back, Mindsetters. I hope you had a nice little break and that you're now back ready and geared to go. You got your pens and pads out and you're ready to make notes. Because right now I'm going to hand back to Haley, who's got a lot more to teach. But on that note, Haley, take it away.
Thanks, Ty. Okay, hopefully, Arthur, there were no mistakes there, but I still thank you again. But let's carry on. So we're working out the cost. Now, we had just worked out the cost of our flour, and then we could carry on and work out the cost of the salt, and we're going to have to do this calculation for every single one of these. Okay, really nice practice, and maybe we'll post it onto Facebook so you can actually practice it because it's really nice skills for ratios. And on that note, though, I'm going to move on because I think if I get stuck with the same calculations over and over, we're not going to get through the whole lesson. So let's move to the next question. And the next question says, how much do the ingredient cost in order to make one batch of donuts? Now, I don't have my calculations, but I'm going to tell you that what we've done is we've calculated the cost for each one of these. And what we're going to do is we're going to add these all up. And that'll give us our total that it'll cost for one batch of donuts. Right, and the next part of the question says, well, okay, if there are 12 donuts in each batch, calculate the cost of the ingredients used in order to make one donut. So now what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to take, well, my answer that I had for the last question, so my last answer, and that was the total cost, and I'm going to divide it by 12 to get my cost per donut. So I'm not going to do the calculations, but I think that you guys can do it on your own. So I'm going to ask the powers that be to put it onto Facebook, and you can practice. Let's move on.
From what we gathered from powers that be, it looks like it's 26 Rand 6 cents.
26 Rand 6 cents. Okay, well, let's try it work out. 26 Rand and 6 cents. Right. Well, that's my cost then for making one batch. So let's work out our cost per donut. We've got 26 Rand and 6 cents divided by 12, and it costs us 2 Rand 17. We're going to round it off, 2 Rand 17 each. So it's costing us 2 Rand 17 each. Okay, that's absolutely great. Now let's go back to that first question. So give me a sec to find it. Right, question 1. Question 1 says, here's an example of information given to consumers about electricity costs for households in a city in South Africa. So this has been given to the people that are using the electricity. The amount of electricity used is given in the number of units. We talk about the units of electricity. And we've got two different rates. So the first rate says it's a domestic rate 1. And in this rate, we pay 33.28 cents per unit. And there's a service charge of 1.46 Rand per day that applies whether electricity is consumed or not. That means that before you have switched on anything with power, let's assume everything was off, you are still paying 1.46 Rand per day for the privilege of having the ability to have electricity. And then once you start switching things on, you're paying 33.28 Rand per unit. Our domestic rate 2 is 45.99 cents per unit. And this would ideally be used for consumption is below about 350 units per month. There is no service charge. So you are paying a higher amount per unit. But if you've got nothing on, you are not paying for electricity. So if you're using absolutely no units, you are not paying. So those are the main differences. And then it tells us that note all the calculations that follow, we consider a month that has 31 days in it. And that's really important, that fact. Because we're paying a daily rate, so we're going to have to work it out as 31 days. If for some reason they don't give you the number of days in the month, Then what I want you to do in your question is I want you to say, well, I've assumed a 31-day month, or I've assumed a 30-day month, or you can even assume it's February and there were 28 days. But as long as you tell your examiner, your teacher, what you have assumed, so that they can follow your train of thought. But in this case, we've been given that value, so it's really not important. If a household used 380 units of electricity in a month and they were charged using domestic rate 1, what would they pay for electricity in rands for that month? So, what do we know about rate 1? Rate 1 has got a fixed cost plus our rate cost. Hey, so our fixed cost was our R1.46 per day. So for this month they paid R1.46 and there were 31 days. So let's just do that calculation and see what they paid. So it was R1.46 times by 31 days. So they paid R45.26 for the privilege of having electricity. R45.26. Then we had a rate. Now our rate was 33.28 cents. 33.28 cents. Now remember they asked us for our answer in rands. So it's really important that we convert at some point to rands. Now we can convert at this point, but if you convert at this point, do not round off. So let's do that. So we're going to divide by 100 because there's 100 cents in a rand, and we're going to get 0.3328. So I need you to use that full amount. Or if you prefer, you can actually multiply it by the number of units used and then convert it to rands. But either way will work perfectly. So how much we had? Let's change our color. So we had 380 units at a rate of 0.3328. And now we're going to need a calculator to work that out. So it was 380 times by 0.3328. And for the electricity, they paid R126.46. 126 rand and 46 cents. So in actual fact, in total, they paid that amount and that amount. So I'm going to get my calculator back out and add my 45 rand 26. That's 171 rand 72. 171 rand 72. That's what they paid in total for electricity. Right, let's check the next rate. So if the household used the same number of units in the month, they were charged using the domestic rate 2. Well, in domestic rate 2, we only have our rate, which we're going to times by the number of units. So our rate was 45.99 cents. And in fact, this time I'm going to do the calculation the other way. We'll convert at the end. So times that by 380. Get our calculator out. So it was 45.99 cents times by 380. And I get an answer of 17476.2. 17476.2. But remember that was cents, so it seems very high, but we need to convert it to rands. So we're going to divide by 100, and if you'd like, you can get your calculator out. It's 174 rand 76. So that's what they pay for the second one. Let's see if we can get the next part of the question done. Write an equation that relates the monthly payments in rands for electricity, which they want us to use the letter P, to the number of units of electricity consumed in for domestic rate 1. So for domestic rate 1, we had our electricity that we used was equal to our fixed rate. What was our fixed rate? 46 rand 26, I think. Plus our number of units that we use times by our rate. And I'm going to write it in rands. So with 0,33 with a 228. And that's my formula. Remember, I've used the amount for 31 days. Okay. And our next question, was it 4626? I'm going to go back and check that I did have the right number. No, there was a question before that. 4526. 4526. Rewrite that. Okay. Next question says, what happened to the next question? Oh, I think it's on the last page. Wanted to work it out for domestic rate 2. Okay, domestic rate 2, we had our principal was equal to, we had no fixed rate, so we had our rate of 0, and it was 45 cents, 99, 45.99, I've converted it, times by n. So that's your equation. It's not that hard to find the equation, but you need to be able to use it. No, let me take that back. To find the equation, always look if there's a fixed rate, and then we're looking for a rate per unit. So in this case, we've got no fixed rate, but we've got our rate per unit. And that gives you your equation. And if you'd like to use words in the equation rather than the letters, then by all means do so. Hey, I'm not sure if we're going to have time to go on to the next question. So, but I'm going to read through it to explain. There's one value for the number of units consumed per month where you will pay the same whether you are charged using domestic rate 1 or domestic rate 2. Use your two equations to work out which number of units per month this is. So what we need to do now is we've got our equation for domestic rate 1. And we've got our equation for domestic 2. And in order to find out the number of units, we need to make these equal to each other. And then with a little bit of manipulation, we can find the number of units where it is equal. So I'm not going to be able to do it right now because we're running out of time, but I hope that you'll be able to do it on your own. But I think when we do graphs, we might come back to something like this. But on that note, I'm going to have to say goodbye to you guys. I'm handing over to Ty, and I'll see you again next week.
All right. So on that note, Mindsetters, again, I cannot stress, guys, make sure you just go on the page, chat. It's for you guys. Make sure you post. And I just want to send a quick shout out to Doc. Thank you so much for keep posting on the page. But for me, this is where I sign off and see you next time.